Most recent spoilers of the upcoming set Murders at Karlov Manor have shown two new intriguing and unique land removal cards, and in today's video we're going to look at them, but also look at some synergies and consequences for different beloved formats. Welcome back everyone to another installment of Think Outside the Deck Box. The first card we're going to look at today is Krenko's Buzzcrusher. It's a red Insectopter artifact creature for 2 and 2 red. It has flying and trample, is a 4/4, and when it enters the battlefield, for each player you destroy up to 1 non-basic land that player controls. And then for each land destroyed this way, its controller searches their library for a basic land card and puts it onto the battlefield tapped. Now at first this card appears solid, but when you look at the implications this card brings with it, you'll see it's quite powerful. The first thing I want to point out is that the Buzzcrusher does not target lands, and is therefore able to get around hexproof on lands. How's that relevant, you ask? Take a look at this beautiful land, which has hexproof, enters the battlefield tapped, and you have to sacrifice 2 lands for it to be able to provide 3 mana of any color. And the friendly Goblin Thopter will just be able to remove it, leaving you with a basic land, and the fact that you've also sacked 2 lands beforehand to just get it into play.
Looks like lands are back on the menu, boys!
This will be a wonderful answer for Pioneer players. Mark Rosewater even confirmed that the artifact insect was made that way on purpose to be able to deal with lands like Lotus Field on his blog, but also a viable option in Commander. Here you can get rid of Gaia's Cradles, Reliquary Towers, Urza's Sagas, Cabal Coffers, you name it, and leave your opponent with just a single basic land. The Buzzcrusher also synergizes well with Rite of Replication, a sorcery for 2 and 2 blue, and a kicker cost of 5. If you didn't pay the kicker costs, you just copy 1 creature once, but if you kick the spell, you get 5 copies of target creature, and are then able to destroy up to 15 lands if you want to, and your opponents can get another 5 basics from their library if they still have any in there. Now you might say, well, Tutor, it's their fault that they play so many expensive non-basic lands. They should just be playing more basics and the problem is solved, right? Wrong. Let's look at our second card for today, which is the Deadly Cover-Up. When this card first was spoiled, it was only available in French, and people were unsure if this had a misprint on it, since there was a certain keyword missing, but 2 days later we got the English version from Wizards confirming that no, the French version did not have a mistake in the text box. So let's look at this card for a sec and see if you can spot what the fuzz was all about. Deadly Cover-Up is a sorcery for 3 and 2 black, and as an additional cost you can collect evidence 6, which simply means that you exile cards with a total mana value of 6 or greater from your graveyard to have some additional payoff for your spell. Then the sorcery destroys all creatures, which is by itself a solid card, but then if evidence was collected, you exile a card from an opponent's graveyard, then search its owner's graveyard, hand, and library for any number of cards with the same name and exile them. That player shuffles, then draws a card for each card exiled from their hand this way. Noticed anything weird? How about the missing word non-basic? And since it's not on there, you can actually get rid of all basics in a player's library if they had 1 basic land in their graveyard beforehand. Now getting to collect evidence 6 shouldn't be too hard, since you can exile multiple cards to achieve the total amount of 6 converted mana costs exiled, and either you exile a simple card that you just don't want to see anymore and maybe you just destroyed, but also you are able to exile basic lands. Now, which implications does this have? On the one hand, Deadly Cover-Up can be used as a group hug card. If your opponent has enough lands on the battlefield, you could just help them out by exiling all their basic lands from their deck, and they now can draw any other card, either non-basic lands or useful cards from then on. But it can also be quite devastating on the other hand. Let's say there is a player behind with lands and now you're setting them back even further, exiling all their basic lands from their deck, and now they don't have a chance to come back at all. This is also not the first time Wizards has printed a card that is able to exile all basic lands from a player's deck. We have here Bitter Ordeal from Future Sight, which exiles a single card from a player's library for 2 and a black, and has Gravestorm, which allows you to copy Bitter Ordeal for each permanent that was put into the graveyard this turn. And if you wipe the board and destroyed like 20 creatures or so, you could exile 20 cards from any player's library, and you could focus one player exiling all their basic lands. But now I do want to hear from you. What's your favorite way to get rid of an opponent's land or lands? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, click the button on the left to support this channel with your subscription, and the button on the right for another impeccable video picked out just for you. See you there, and bye bye!